Today, maximising your potential and the vision thing with Jack Canfield. It's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to his post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour and with a little philosophy on the side. I'm joined today by Jack Canfield, American author, motivational speaker, corporate trainer and entrepreneur. And he's the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which has sold more than 500 million copies. 500 million. More than 250 titles and printed in over 400 languages. Hello, Jack. Thank you very much for spending some time with us.
My pleasure, Martin. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, I want to start by asking, I guess, quite a hard question. We're at a time of critical uncertainty around the world. You look at COVID, you look at the financial situation that we're in. And I guess I'm struggling to wrestle that in the context of people sometimes feel quite insecure and unable to take control in this sort of environment. So can your philosophy and approach really make a difference in these difficult times?
Yeah, I think it can, because basically what I've learned over the years is there's only three things you can control in life: your thoughts, the images that you put into your head, which are called worry or positive expectations, your vision of the future, and what you say and what you do. And so your behavior. And so basically, these are what we can control. And basically, the thing I teach is mindset, skill sets, and action. And so the mindset is the thoughts you think. And we can learn to think positive thoughts. We can learn to think thoughts of expectations that are good, or we can think thoughts of worry that are negative. I remember Zig Ziglar used to say that worrying is negative goal setting. And so we're using the power of our creative mind to think about and visualize exactly what we don't want to have happen in our life. And so that's not really a great way to live your life. So we can learn through courses, through listening to positive podcasts, through watching TED Talks and TEDx Talks, watching YouTube videos, going to summits, listening to people like Tony Robbins and myself and Brian Tracy and Lisa Nichols and yourself and so on, so that people can be thinking the kind of thoughts that, for lack of a better term, winners, succeeders, billionaires, millionaires think. And I've done a lot of studying and interviews. I interviewed 75 of the most successful people in North America when I wrote my book, The Success Principles. And these were CEOs, generals in the military, well-known actors, Olympic athletes, et cetera. And they think a different set of thoughts than the average person. Just give you one example. When the 2008-2009 financial crisis hit, I was doing a workshop for RE/MAX real estate franchise owners in New England. And everyone was down about 30 or 40%, except one person. And so I asked him to come to the front of the room, and I said, I want to interview you and find out why you're up and they're down. And he said, Jack, it's mostly mindset. Everyone in this room thinks that when there's a recession, they're going to do worse. And so therefore they start cutting back. They'll stop spending as much money on ads. They're worried about the future. He said, I tell myself that no matter what the economy is doing, I always do well. So he just starts with a different set of assumptions, different belief system. And that's a choice. We can choose to believe anything we want to. Obviously, we don't always have evidence beforehand. But as a lot of us in this kind of work say, it's not about I'll believe it when I see it. It's about you'll see it when you believe it. And so literally, Napoleon Hill said, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. And he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which was probably the success classic that most millionaires and billionaires would say affected their lives. Then The Secret came along a few years ago and everybody said, well, that helped with the law of attraction. But generally, you want to surround yourself with positive people. One of the things I teach is drop out of the Ain't It Awful Club. So you got a lot of people who sit around and commiserate about how bad it is, how bad it's going to be, and what they're worried about. I used to say it's called your local bar. Now most of us are not going out to bars because we're sheltered in place. But based on the news you watch, the people you listen to, the newscasts that whatever channel there's conservative, there's liberal, whatever, you're surrounding yourself with a set of memes, a set of thoughts, a belief system, and you have choice over that. What books do you read? What podcasts do you listen to, et cetera? So there's choice. And I think that we have control of that. We can control our imagination. We can choose to visualize what we want to happen. We all know in the success work that visualizing the goals you want actually programs your subconscious to come up with solutions for that. But most of us are visualizing a negative future. Right now everyone's visualizing COVID-19. It's going to go on for 2 years. We don't have our jobs. What are you going to do? As opposed to, if it does go on, can I visualize? I don't talk about the new normal anymore. I talk about the new better. Can I visualize a better situation? Just in my own life, to give you an example, I'm mainly a trainer and a speaker that speaks in front of live audiences, 1,000 people, those kind of conventions, make things like that, deliver keynotes, and then do trainings. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, I was supposed to go to the Bahamas and deliver a keynote for the Bacardi company, the people that make rum, and they have a number of other brands of alcohol. And 400 managers would have flown in from all over the world to Bermuda. I would have flown to Bermuda for a day. I would have spoken for an hour or two. I would have spent the rest of the day in Bermuda. Then I would have come home the next day, 3 days out of my life for, $25,000 or $30,000. Now, what happened was I didn't have to leave my house. I didn't have to lose 2 days of travel. Bacardi said, since everyone's going to be watching from home anyway, why don't we have all 4,000 of our employees watch? So now I'm speaking to 4,000 people, at least 1,000 of who went and bought my book, The Success Principles, and I didn't have to go anywhere. So to me, that's the new better. And now we can start to say, if we're going to have to pivot everything we do to online, which we just did, now we started an online coaching club, had 500 people enroll in the first month. And we have people from 17 countries. Most of those people wouldn't have got on a plane to come to Los Angeles to go to a workshop. So literally, things are actually better because we decided we're going to figure out how to make it better. And then finally, there's the new behaviors. And as you know, there are literally hundreds of people right now teaching how to do internet marketing, how to create podcasts, how to do summits, how to do online webinars, how to use Zoom, how to use Crowdcaster. All of these things are available if one wants to take advantage of them and learn the skills that are going to be required for this new time in history, if you will.
Right. And let me just come back to the core point, which is it's an attitude of mind. You have to start with the mind, right? And,
Yes.
and I guess my question is, do you think that people are innately wired positive or negative, or is it actually conceivable that you can switch from, if you like, looking on the negative side to having positive thoughts and essentially driving, from there? Because I know people, quite a few people actually, who always drift to the negative. That there's reasons why they can't do things. There are other
Sure.
people who always seem to be on the other side of the fence, saying, "Here is an opportunity, and I can go grab it." My question is, how do you switch that thinking from negative to positive, and is it possible?
Yeah, I think it's a combination, as you always hear, of nature and nurture. I think some people are born with just a more positive personality. You see this among kids. Some people are more outgoing, some people are more shy, some people are more willing to risk, some people are more willing to hold back. But I also think it's a big aspect of your parenting, that you're conditioned. If my parents were negative, I'm probably going to grow up having heard all these negative thoughts and beliefs. Like my dad always believed that corporations ripped everybody off. He was more of the union mentality, and I grew up thinking corporations were bad. And then I met my boss at the time, a guy named W. Clement Stone. He was worth $600 million. He said, success is not a 4-letter word. It's something that you can go out there and create. And so he taught me to really admire people who were successful and to realize I could make as much money as I wanted, and that money was a good thing, that, money was not the root of all evil. Money was the root of all philanthropy. So the idea is I learned to shift my mindset, and by being around him, by reading all the books he recommended, Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Mind, et cetera, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, an Australian. So basically, he wasn't Australian, but the woman who created The Secret, Rhonda Byrne, was Australian, who basically built around his book. But the point being that it's learnable. And so I've seen people shift, because I do these long seminars, sometimes ongoing seminars, and I've watched people that are very pessimistic and very negative, and over time, using certain tools, surrounding themselves with positive thoughts, learning to use affirmations, visualizing, just putting posters around their house, whatever, that they have literally shifted. And repetition is a huge aspect of that. Repeating positive thoughts, reading positive books over and over and over, you get into that mindset. So we are, as human beings, as all animals are, a function of our environments. But we're the only animal, other than creating nests, that can create environments that actually inspire us, rather than X virus. And so we can learn how to do that.
Right. So what you're saying is it is conceivable that you can change, but you have to be intentional about it. It just doesn't happen, right? And so the first observation is you have to make a decision to do this. And I guess the second point to make is that when you define what that success looks like, it doesn't have to be a specific outcome in terms of, I want to be rich or whatever, right? You can define success in your own terms, but you've got to actually go about it. And I know you sometimes talk about a vision board, which is a way of trying to really articulate clearly what it is that you define success as. Can we just unpack that a bit?
Sure. Let's talk about success and we'll talk about vision board. I used to think that success when I was young was, having a lot of money and being able to do whatever I want. And then Tony Robbins came along and said, success is being able to do whatever you want with whomever you want, as much as you want, wherever you want. I was fun. I liked that. And then I realized my definition of success today is fulfilling your soul's purpose. Now, what do I mean by that? I believe every one of us has something in us that we are designed to do, some qualities, talents, skills, expertise that we're meant to bring into the world to be of service to others. And as Brian Tracy said, if you want to make more money, find a way to be of more service to more people. And I really believe that's true. Your podcasts do that. I've watched a couple of them in preparation for this interview, and I've watched you being interviewed. And so you're bringing really useful information to people, and it's valuable for them. And so the more we can do that, the better off we are. And so success is individual. For some people, raising 3 healthy kids that aren't drug addicted by the time they're 18 is a success. For someone else, starting an entrepreneurial enterprise. For someone else, becoming an athlete. For someone else, getting their music on Spotify or Sonos or whatever. So for me, my definition of success is inspiring and empowering people to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. And the more people I can do that for, the happier I am. So it's not a numbers goal I have, it's more of a process goal. And also to be happy, which, is a goal for me as well. Now, vision board, once you've decided what success means to you, and in my seminars and in my books, I divide life into 7 areas. So there's financial, business, and career. And then there's health and fitness, there's relationships, there's personal, which means personal growth and development, possessions you'd like to own, philanthropy, and then what I call free time and fun. What do you want to do for that? So if you can think of each area of your life and ask yourself, if my life were perfect in each of those areas, what would my life look like? Then we can go to the vision board and say, okay, I like to surf. So I want to put a picture of a surfboard up there, or a picture of a person surfing. I wanted to learn to play the piano a couple of years. So I had a picture of hands on a keyboard. I wanted to be on the Oprah Winfrey show. So I put a picture of me and Oprah next to each other. Been on 2 of her shows now and had her at a house. She came to my house for dinner one night. It's a whole other story. It was really fun. She's definitely worth spending time with. And we've become friends. And so you put pictures and words of the things you want to be experiencing in life. And so words like abundance, peace and calm, making a difference, whatever. And it's funny because right before I got on this, I was preparing a slideshow for something I'm doing in a couple of days. And there was a picture there of a woman in the seminar she took from me at the local community college about 10 years ago. I do a free workshop for the community college every year for the community. And she had a goal to get married. She did not have a boyfriend. She was not in love, but she was lonely and she wanted to be married. And she wanted to get married in Greece and have her honeymoon in Greece. So she made a vision board of a pictures of Santorini with all the white buildings and the blue background, and then a picture of a couple and love and a wedding ring and all this. And literally 2 years later, she sent me a picture of her wedding in Santorini, sitting on one of those white balconies, looking at the ocean below, and she fulfilled it. And now she's also writing Greek cookbooks. And so basically, I'm a big believer in a vision board, because what you picture in your mind and out picture through visualization and putting it on vision boards and so forth, your subconscious will start to figure out how to make happen. So your subconscious mostly thinks in terms of pictures. We talk about having dreams, we daydream, we talk about our visualization, talk about people who are visionaries like Walt Disney and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and, those type of people. And so our subconscious, we can program it by visualizing the outcomes we want internally, and then also externally by having vision boards, 1 or 2 around the house. I have my vision board is also my screensaver on my My wife's my screensaver on my cell phone, or I'd be in big trouble because she looks at it all the time and go, "Why aren't I on there?" But my computer is my vision board with all my current pictures on there, including $8 million bills, because that's the income I strive to make every year.
Now, one question I have is that, we're talking here about the individual and the individual envisioning a different future and then going towards it, right? I'm interested in your perspective as to how that interacts with, society more broadly and, the political agenda and those sorts of things. Because I get a lot of people say to me, I can't do much because it's what the government does. The government's got to fix this. The government's got to fix that. It's somebody else's problem to fix. There's clearly something in here about taking personal ownership and responsibility as well, isn't there?
Yeah, the first chapter of my book, The Success Principles, the first thing I teach in any seminar is principle number 1, I call it, which is take 100% responsibility for your life and your results. So whatever you're experiencing, you're taking responsibility. So I have this equation that says E plus R equals O. There are events in your life, like the pandemic, like George Floyd's death, like what's going on in Brazil, the fires that are happening, when they weren't happening in Australia. These are all events. And then you have a response. As I said, the only 3 responses you can have are the thoughts you think, the pictures you picture, and what you say and do. And so basically, we are responsible for what we're experiencing in response to what is. So obviously, if you have an authoritarian dictator in your country, you're not totally responsible for that. But if you're not doing anything to try to change that, whether it's protesting or writing a broadside or, trying to elect somebody new, if it's an electoral process, and contributing money, getting together with people, organizing, whatever, then you are part of allowing it to be the way it is. I always say you're either creating it, promoting it, or allowing it. And so a lot of us are in the space of allowing it. And we think because we can't do something huge, we can't do anything at all. And, after George Floyd was killed in America by the police, and it's led to all these protests and sometimes rioting in America, especially in Portland, Oregon, we read about all the time, that individuals can do things. Like we've watched, my wife and I, who are white, and I dated a black woman once. I taught in all black schools. I've done, organizing for, civil rights back in the 70s. So I feel pretty good about myself. However, we went on about a 3-week period of watching movies by black authors, movies about black lives, movies about slavery, reading about white racism, white elitism, white privilege, and so forth. I can do that. I can write a check to a justice project. I can write a check to, a bail bond thing that's helping protesters get out. I can take individual steps that may not solve the whole problem, but actually contribute to the solution. And as someone said, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So we're talking now about sitting on the sidelines is actually contributing to the problem. You're allowing it to continue. And so I think we can have more say of what we do. And a lot of us feel victimized by the government. Well, the government did this, the economy did that. I'm not in charge of that. I'm not in charge of the pandemic. But we are in charge of how we respond to it in terms of relating to it for ourselves and also how we respond. I mean, right now we have a huge election coming up in America with Donald Trump on one side and Joe Biden on the other. And, quite frankly, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a big fan of total liberal economics, but I'm also not a big fan of some of the things he's done. So I have to decide. I can't sit on the sideline. I have to decide, what do I stand for? What are my values? What do I want to see happen? And then do what I can to bring that about. Now, if I don't bring it about, then I have to realize I can't be responsible for everything, but I can be responsible for a lot more than most people take responsibility for.
Well, it's a very important message here in Australia because, of course, with all the sunshine we get and all the sport that's on all the time, and people say, "Oh, it's all too much trouble. I'm just going to go and sit on the beach and enjoy myself," right? And so, one of my observations is that there's actually a relatively small proportion of people in Australia who really want to get up and make some of the change that I think people would want to see. And yet, of course, it does start with individuals, and it starts with small steps, and it starts with understanding that you can make a difference. Give you an example. People keep saying, "Why do you keep encouraging people to pick up the phone and talk to politicians and make your voice heard?" And I say, well, that's how you get change to happen, right? Because effectively, it's those who don't turn up that actually allows things to continue the way they currently are. And so it really is down to individual action and responsibility. And it comes back right to your central point, which is unless you actually start with a clear view of where you want to head and what you want to achieve, nothing happens.
Exactly, including what's your vision of a good society? What's your vision of the kind of country you want to live in, the state you want to live in, the kind of compassion versus hatred you want to live in, divisiveness or people getting along. All of that is choosable. And then we work to create it. I mean, America was founded on, equal rights and all that kind of stuff. Have we achieved that yet? No. Are people that are of color still in a disadvantaged situation? Most people, absolutely. Are we better off than we were 30 years ago because of people like John Lewis and Martin Luther King? Absolutely. And Barack Obama and so forth. So we keep working at it. And sometimes there are setbacks, as there are in anything, starting a business, starting a family, whatever it is. But that's part of life. And I really believe, and I strongly believe this, that life is not just about achieving things. It's about achieving mastery of yourself. In other words, it's not about the cars and the homes, and those are great, and I have them, and I'm really grateful that I do, and it's wonderful. However, mastery of my emotions, mastery of how to enroll people in an idea, mastery of selling, mastery of having a good humor, mastery of relationships. You read a book like The 5 Love Languages or Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I get along better with my wife because of it. So I've mastered relationships more. So I could lose my house, my wife could die, my reputation could be sullied, but who I've become can never be taken away from me. And so too many people are, throw another, what did you do say? You throw another Barbie on another shrimp on the Barbie and, drink another beer kind of thing. And the reality is the same thing's true in America, where people come home from work, drink beer, watch TV, go to bed, rinse and repeat, do it over and over and over. And then they wonder why they're not super happy. And they've just gone into resignation. And so for me, I think it's a constant commitment to growth and a constant commitment to realize that even if I don't get everything that I want, who I've become, a stronger, more courageous, more compassionate, more perseverant, more, intelligent, wise person in the process is great. My first book was not a bestseller, but I learned something about writing a book and how to make it a bestseller. And so each thing I did got better and better and better. And then obviously the Chicken Soup for the Soul series took off and sold 500 million books, which surprised everybody, including me at that point. It's a lot of books, but you get better. And so I think it's, Tony Robbins has a great quote. It's called CANI, C-A-N-I. You want to be committed to constant and never ending improvement. And I think that's what we all should subscribe to, whether it's better golf game, better cricket, better rugby, better musician, better, financial advisor, whatever it might be.
And you touched on one very important point, and that is how you deal with adversity, because everybody in their lives are going to have patches when things go really badly and things go off the rails. And I've always believed that actually often through those negative experiences, if you can turn it positive, you can actually improve and build from it. But again, that's another attitude of mind thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I go back somewhere along the line, I learned about knives. And if you want to have a sword or you want to have a good knife, you have to temper the steel. You have to stress it. And so what happens when you stress the steel, it becomes stronger. It's like, why do surfers have those little knobs on their knees? It's because every time they get on their surfboard, it's an impact on that bone, and eventually it builds up a little knob. And if we break a bone, it gets stronger where the break was because it gets, goes thicker. And so everything in our life that is a challenge it requires us to get stronger, to develop more qualities. I like to think of life like we have these arcade games. I don't know if you have them in Australia. It's called Whack-A-Mole, where you put $1 in and these little heads jump up and you have to hit them with the hammer before they go back down, and the more points you get. And I think in life, as you're moving from where you are to where you want to be, these little whack-a-mole things come up as obstacles, as failures, as challenges. And when you learn to handle those, you are stronger, you're smarter, you're wiser, you're more experienced. And why is it that people with gray hair tend to be wiser than younger people? Because they've had to deal with more of those things and they've learned from them. And so I really think, going back, that's the ultimate payoff. And so adversity is the opportunity to develop yourself, to develop your company, to learn new skills, hire new people, get new consultants, whatever it might be. And so I always go, I took a seminar many, many years ago. I don't remember who the trainer was, but he said, when anything bad happens, just say, "Oh, what fun." So you're going through the airport and your briefcase opens and everything falls on the floor. Instead of saying, "Oh, the S word," you simply go, "Oh, what fun." And then you pick everything up and keep going. And so I started teaching people to juggle. And people would all say, whenever they drop the ball, they'd swear. And I'd say, no, just say, "Oh, what fun." And it changes the whole attitude that life's a game and you can get better at it. And you're going to have things that don't work out. You're going to lose games. You're going to win some games. You're going to, I'm on my third marriage. My first one lasted 5 years. My second one, 20. And we grew apart and, it was mutual. And, when the Be Married Forever rules came about way back when, the average life expectancy was about 40 years old. Today, I plan to live to be 100. I'm 75. I'm taking really good care of myself. And, so sometimes relationships dissolve. And I remember for a couple of years, I was embarrassed to say, here I'm a success trainer. And I go, yeah, this is my third marriage. Like, it doesn't sound very successful, but I've learned something from each one of those. And this is the most happy, fun, fulfilling relationship I've been in now for 23 years with my current wife.
Very, very interesting. Jack, that's been a fascinating conversation. Last question. If somebody wants to sort of start out on this journey, what's the first step they should take?
Well, not to sound self-serving, but I would recommend get my book, The Success Principles. It's literally 67 principles of success. It's got nothing but rave reviews from people who've read it. So that's one thing. Second thing, I would say you got to make a decision. Like you said earlier, to decide means to cut off all other other paths. Decision, like incision is to cut, decision is to cut off. So really make a commitment. And then get clear about what exactly you want the outcome to be. Do you want to be happier? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to be wealthier? Do you want to have more impact in the world? And then I would say, find out who's already doing what you want to do. And is there a way to access their knowledge? And usually there is. There's a book they've written. There's a course they're teaching, podcasts, webinars, whatever. There's this wonderful thing now called Masterclass online with these incredible teachers, filmmakers and comedians and chefs and bartenders even, So anything you want to master, you can. But I would say there's probably 10 or 15 core books everybody should read. They're just go to Amazon and type in motivational, inspirational, self-help books. And I think surrounding yourself with that. And I have my wife and I have a roommate living in our home right now. She got locked down visiting us and couldn't leave. And now we kind of like having her living with us. So she's been with us now for about the better part of a year. But she spends 2 hours a day listening to teachers online. Joe Dispenza and Tony Robbins and, other people, me. And so what happens is 2 hours a day, she is learning new ways of thinking, new ways of skill setting, etc. So I would say make a commitment to study, whether you're reading, whether you're taking online courses, or you're listening to podcasts, whatever. And then I would say, if you're really, really serious, get a coach, find somebody who can coach you in the area you want to be better at, whether it's parenting or, just life skills, whatever. Join a mastermind group where you've got other like-minded people who are working on the same goals. So you have a community around you. And I always see drop out of the Ain't It Awful Club. The people, we talked about that just briefly in the beginning, the people that are negative naysayers. Because when you decide to grow and raise your vibration to be more positive than negative, it's going to upset your friends a little bit. And they're going to want to pull you back down. Well, who do you think you are? And you're crazy. That's woo-woo and whatever. So you probably want to get yourself in some communities of people, whether it's online or, in real life, that can support you. But those would be the things I would say I would start with.
Jack, I really appreciate your time. It's been fascinating talking with you, and I think your messages are really important, particularly now. Now, you'll be running a webinar in a few days' time, and people in Australia are able to watch, aren't they?
Yes, I can't give you the URL. I probably should be able to do that, but
I'll put it in the link below. That's not a problem.
You put it in the link below. Everyone can go there. It's really cool. The guy that's doing this is teaching people how to pivot in this pandemic time and create income online. And so I'm going to be doing the mindset portion first, and he's going to be teaching the skill set part second. And he's got another teacher who is an expert in share trading. So there's the three of us teaching that. And I really encourage you to come because you're going to get a 1, 2, 3 punch of how to take your life to the next level financially, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Yeah, Jack, thanks very much for your time. And as you say, it's all in the mind. So, step up, step out, and let's make things better.
All right. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.